Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking on the video. We have officially wrapped up our round of 32, and we are moving into the Sweet 16. It's March Madness. Great time to be alive right now. My bracket is already busted, sorta. I mean, technically, my Final Four teams are still in it, which was UConn, Duke? No, UConn, Gonzaga, um, hello, Marquette, and North Carolina, and then North Carolina winning the national championship over Marquette. So that's still there officially. But just because we're going round by round for fun predictions, it's like, you know what? Let's just move into the Sweet 16 and predict it from here based off of what I have watched. And I'll just give a little insight and an opinion on each of the matchups coming up. So let's start with the East. Number 1, UConn versus number 5, San Diego State. It's like, hey, these logos, this matchup seems very familiar. Well, that's because it was last year's national championship game. My honest reaction to this is it's kind of cool that we have a rematch of a national championship in the Sweet 16. I will say, though, as fun as the story and the narrative would be of like, hey, the returning guys on the Aztecs, have that revenge game, UConn's just way too much. This team, especially with UConn versus other returning squads, like, in 22 when Kansas won it all, in 21 when Baylor won it all. This squad for UConn feels like they could go on another run versus guys getting drafted and moving on to the next round. Now, UConn did lose some pieces, but just with how they dominated in these first two rounds, will the San Diego State game be close? I mean, of course. It's probably going to be a 35-32, 35-30 kind of game at the half, and then in the second half, that 8-minute swing between the 10-minute middle mark, that's when UConn's going to just rev it up and they're going to run away with it. But I think UConn's way too much for San Diego State, and they move on to the next round. But it would be really fun to say, yeah, San Diego State got their revenge and knocked them out, but UConn they look like heavy favorites to win it all, and we haven't seen a back-to-back team in quite some time, but with this squad, yeah, I could see it, but it is March. And then Illinois and Iowa State, I'm leaning towards, just because of how the performance of Illinois these last two games. I was originally leaning towards Iowa State, but, changed that up a little bit. I'm going to go with the Illini. For the West, with North Carolina versus Alabama, this isn't the Alabama team that was the number 1 overall last year that ended up getting upset. This is a totally different Bama squad. I didn't see Bama getting this far, and I just think that North Carolina is way too much, and they've already had those close, tough games this season more than Alabama. They're more known for basketball versus Alabama with football. So, like, if this was a football game, oh my gosh, give me Bama by 50. But I think North Carolina moves on, and they play Arizona. I was originally leaning Baylor in my original prediction because I thought, Arizona chokes it away. But with how, Clemson got it done versus Baylor, and it's not going to be Baylor versus Arizona, it's going to be Clemson versus Arizona. I think Arizona has got it on lock this year, kind of a little bit like Purdue, where it's like, okay, I don't think these teams are going to melt in the first few rounds like they have in years past. Like, I could see them going on a deeper run, and I really think that the Wildcats are going to meet head-to-head with the Tar Heels in the regional final. And then from there, but I still will take the Tar Heels. All right, in the South, Houston versus Duke. Houston's incredible game the other night against Texas A&M. I think with just how close and how almost a scare that the Aggies put on for the Cougars, I think Duke's going to come right at them, and Houston's going to be my number 1 team to fall first, because I think Duke's got it, and I think Duke has all the writings to get an upset here, and a lot of people are rolling with the Cougars, but I don't see it. I could see them getting beat. And then with NC State versus Marquette, you know what? The safe pick would be to pick, the Golden Eagles. But with just how NC State they've gone on a magical Cinderella run. This is kind of reminiscent of UConn all those years back. I think they take this momentum with Daria, with, big DJ, and they, take it to the number 2 team, get another upset, and continue the Cinderella run, just like how St. Peter's did a few years back, Loyola Chicago. Like, seeing an 11 seed go on a run isn't a shocker anymore, and this Wolfpack team definitely can see it. All right, so but then the Midwest with Purdue versus Gonzaga, I think that okay, Purdue absolutely blew the Aggies out the other day, but again, like that's Utah State. Okay, it's not like they, ran into the Virginia Cavaliers and blew them out by that much. Wisconsin Badgers, Duke, North Carolina, like it's Utah State, okay? And Utah State isn't even the best basketball team in Utah. Don't let that mislead with how Gonzaga is going to step up to the plate, because Kansas played them close, but in that second half, the Bulldogs pulled away. And that's how I think that this game is going to be. I just think, I don't know, there's something about this Purdue team. And now, this did happen last time when the number 1 seed got eliminated in the first round. They did have that redemption year, and they went on to win it all. Now, there was some controversy with the Cavs winning it all back in 2019. I mean, Purdue could have the same story here, but I don't know. I would trust the Bulldogs to get a close upset. That doesn't mean that Zach Edey's not going to absolutely perform and have a dominant double-double. No, but I just think Purdue, Baylor, Kansas at times, Arizona, they have had a history of meltdowns. And Gonzaga, I think, is that team that can they're the underdogs, win-win mentality. They have nothing to lose, and so they upset Purdue and move on to go play, I'm going to say, Creighton. It would be a terrible pick just because of how awful the Oregon game was and just how sloppy shooting was and how they dang near, lost that game altogether. I just think Creighton finds a way to win those games, and when they need the clutch buckets, they got the guys to do it. Plus, I remember watching when Creighton lost last year, because I had, with how far they got, it's like, okay, they can definitely make it to the next round, but they got upset and they didn't end up getting to go represent. But all those teams and the guys, they came back. And so I would say they're, along with Purdue, they're one of the most experienced teams in this tournament. And I think experience now from here on out, just like UConn, because UConn had some returning starters. Experience is what gets you from the Sweet 16 moving forward. Unless you have an NBA level caliber player like Anthony Davis forever with Kentucky, all the guys from Villanova who are on the Knicks now, in the 2018 squad. But experience is what gets you from here to the national championship. It's a little different, and it's totally different from my original prediction, but from 16 going in, predicting from the Sweet 16, yeah, I think my Final Four would still consist of UConn, North Carolina, but then switching it up a little bit, NC State versus Creighton. And so we have like that 1 year forever ago when Xavier had to play Butler, where the 2 underdog teams played each other, and then the 2 blue bloods played each other, and then they met up in the final. I think it could be the same here, where the Tar Heels and the Huskies go at it, and then over on the other side, the Wolfpack and the Blue Jays go at it. So that's my prediction on that. Thanks for listening to me ramble this long. I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.